last night. Harden, Mitchell, and Mobley combined for 83 of their 115 points. And Jason and G, as we look at this, it was a masterpiece from James Harden, and I'll explain why in a second. But I think last night, Game 2 against Toronto, was the perfect encapsulation of exactly why you trade Darius Garland for James Harden, despite the fact that James is 10 years older, is on the back end of his career, may not have the upside down the road as Darius Garland, but what he brings to the table in the immediacy of what he can do for this Cavaliers team was on full effect and display last night.
He's one of the best difficult shot makers. He's one of the few pieces left on the board. By the way, LeBron James continues to skate. He did the same move. No Luka, no nobody. LeBron comes out and gives him the old man game
with Bronny.
with Bronny, and gets a dub in Game 1. Kevin Durant, you might want to come back real quick. Get your life together. Don't let them sneak these wins into you. But James Harden, by the way, I think has more left in the tank than LeBron. But, I mean, just the way he's able to, when the shot clock is down, and it looks like he's walking you to sleep between the legs dribble, and it looks like a bad shot, he's going to draw a foul, or he's going to find somebody at the last moment, or he's going to raise up and hit a step back. And those things are really devastating to teams like Toronto, because even when you play great defense for 18, 19 seconds, you still put the ball in his hands where he has an opportunity to make a bad situation a good situation just because he's able to just control the pace of the game and get a shot when he wants to. And by the way, underrated size, 6'6". I mean, he might be 6'5", but he's built sturdy. He's I would say a serviceable defender. He's not a guy you can hunt out and pick and rolls at the end in the late game situations. He's not going, take any shorts in terms of size and being bullied. That right there, 28 points, is the thing that's the difference between Darius Garland. It's the difference between some of these other guys, because he can affect the game in one or two areas where not very many people can get guys involved, like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, but still hit jumpers and get it at the end of the shot clock.
Teams, especially in the playoffs, attack the small guards. We've seen it. We saw it here in Cleveland. People got mad when we said it when Darius was here. I don't think they get as mad now when you say it, but teams would just go right at Darius.
I mean, Golden State did it in the playing game.
Absolutely, yes. It's the exact same thing.
Down the stretch when they blew a 13-point lead.
And so that's just a small piece of it, but that's real. And that makes it hard, especially if you're not making shots, it's hard to stay on the floor in situations like that. And, James coming here, we talked a little bit about it in the first hour. James coming here, to me, sort of signaled the end of trying to play through Evan and trying to put the ball in Evan's hands and put him on the perimeter and having him initiate and everything else. It didn't work. I advocated for it. I wanted him to try it. I wanted to see what it looked like, and it just didn't work. So with now James and Donovan sort of leading this thing, Evan can go back to the paint. He can play where he's comfortable. And on the flip side of it, if you look at a team like Toronto, Scotty Barnes is a great defender. Well, he can only take one of them. On the minutes when Donovan and James are out there together, somebody's going to have a mismatch. If Scotty has one, who's on the other? And whoever it is not as good of a defender as Scotty is. And we saw that a little bit in the game last night, where Barnes would go on Harden would just move him.
Yep.
And if you flip roles on that, and if you put Scotty Barnes on Darius is not moving him the way that James did. And that's not to take anything away from Darius.
No.
I don't want to make this a pile on at Darius.
No.
He's a great kid. He's a great player. I hope he goes on, has tremendous health and a great career. But for where this franchise was at and where this team was at, I thought it was a great trade at the time, and this round has proved it. Now, it's going to get a whole lot tougher than this.
100%.
Yes.
And we've said it from the start. Toronto just isn't a very good team, I don't think. I think they're a great matchup for the Cavs if you're a Cavs fan. And there will be other things that aren't visible now that you're going to see in future rounds. But right now, this is working out great.
They're a great matchup for the Cavs as they are currently constructed. I don't think they would have necessarily been a great matchup for the Cavs if they don't make that deal and it's still Darius and not James in the lineup.
Well, yeah.
Because of the physicality of which Toronto plays, because of the size and length they have across the board on the perimeter.
Yeah.
If Darius was in this spot and not James Harden, all those switches we alluded to earlier and how they've shut down Brandon Ingram, And a lot of the credit goes to Dean Wade, and we talked about that more in the first part of the show. You can go find that on our YouTube page. But when Ingram's been switched on to James Harden, Harden just pushing his back, and Brandon Ingram is not moving James Harden. R.J. Barrett has a couple shots around the rim, and he's done a good job getting to his spots, but they can't isolate James Harden and say, we're going to pick on that matchup night in, night out, possession in, possession out every time when they need a bucket. There's not a defensive liability or true weakness now on the Cavaliers that teams can just pick out, put in a pick-and-roll situation, say, we're attacking you this possession, go catch your breath on offense. We're picking you again on next possession, go catch your breath on offense. And then a third and a fourth and a fifth ensuing possession, which we've seen teams do to the Cavs in the playoffs over the last couple of seasons. But offensively, the biggest thing and the biggest reason why this trade made so much sense at the time, even though I was against it and it took me a little bit to see the light and to see the full picture, is the fact that Donovan doesn't have to be the only guy creating offense now. In 4 of their 5 final games against Indiana last year, in the playoffs, Don took 25 or more shots in 4 of those 5 games. He hasn't taken over 25 shots in the first 2. Took 23 last night, was close, but his usage rate has dropped significantly with James Harden in the backcourt alongside him. Why? Because Donovan inherently trusts James to run the offense the right way, to make the right play, to be able to score, and not every late shot clock situation is falling on Donovan to bail them out of a bad offensive possession. If we run the clip of the Don James highlights from last night, you're going to see a couple different instances with the shot clock down under 5. Both plays, the first and the second play you see on that reel. The shot clock under 5, and it's those two bailing them out of a bad offensive possession and still generating a good look. That's a tough shot. But Don can make it. And it's not now just Don, it's James and Don. And when you have 2 different assassins at the end of a shot clock that you have to worry about as a defense, how do you pick and choose who to stop? The answer is, it's basically impossible. You have to pray they miss. And so far through 2 games, those 2 haven't missed many of those opportunities.
Last year against Indiana, at the end of the shot clock, your options were Ty Jerome, Max Strus, Donovan, and maybe Darius.
And Ty Jerome got benched for most of that series, so it really wasn't even Ty Jerome.
And Ty Jerome, he just collapsed, lost himself millions, and was jettisoned. So you take a look at that. We had problems even getting the ball up the court one of the games against Indiana.
They collapsed in game 2 because they were unable
couldn't
to
get the ball over the
court.
So now you take a look at that. It just seems like now that James Harden is being the primary ball handler, it just seems like Donovan Mitchell is not exerting himself. Even if he took 23 shots, it seems like he has more energy, he has more lift, he has more explosiveness, and he's playing more free because I don't have to take every big shot. I don't have to work, so hard to get the ball and then to get to the basket and figure out where we're going to do late shot clocks. Now it's just like, okay, well, James got it right now. I'm going to chill out a little bit. And on top of it, it magically all of a sudden, and you said this earlier, the size differential would have been much more noticeable against Toronto had Darius Garland been there, because when you extrapolate that, now you go down the line and you say, okay, you got Ty Jerome, you got Darius Garland, you got Max Strus, now you playing Dean Wade, and we talked about it in the first show. You can hide Dean Wade. If Dean Wade ain't gonna hit no shots and he go just play good defense, you can sneak some minutes because you got James Harden that's going to be getting Evan Mobley and Jared Allen involved. He's going to get you 28 points. And then Donovan's still giving you 30. Now you can say, okay, well, Dean, hey, give us that same energy on guys in the next couple of series, because it's going to get harder. Because guess what? You got Tatum coming up. Harder. Ben Carroll possibly. Cade Cunningham possibly. So that's something we got to continue to look at.
Before Jason goes, let me just ask you this, in keeping with the theme of why this deal made so much sense. In round 2, round 3, did you have faith that Darius would be able to stay healthy through these wars? And 2, would you rather have James or Darius as a backcourt partner to Don in round 2 and round 3?
All of it.
Right?
I just think, and this no slight, I think we got to take this in context, Jason. James Harden is one of the greatest players ever to play.
Ever.
And I think sometimes you don't see it because you don't see him up close and personal, and there's a lot of games. You only just dial in on who you got. But seeing it up close and personal, passing, ability to shoot, get to the rim, one of the greatest players to ever do it.
Top 75. And in terms of Donovan's usage rate, too many times, really since he's gotten here, it's been 4 guys standing around waiting for him to bail him out in big moments in big games. hopefully, and again, as this progresses, they're going to be tested much more than they have been through these first 2 games. Hopefully that continues to be the case where he doesn't feel like it's all on him and he's got to bail him out every time. I thought it was interesting. Kenny talked last night about Toronto was trying to sort of wear them down. And we saw how Indiana's pressure sort of took the legs out of the Cavs throughout the course of that series, and they had nothing left by the end of the series. And Kenny Atkinson felt like the Raptors were coming in with sort of the same approach of trying to wear him down, and they handled it much better because they're built a little bit different this year. And the presence of Harden allows that to happen.
When you have the ultimate battle-tested, I understand the playoff success isn't on the resume, but he's seen every defensive scheme you could throw at him. There's nothing that's going to rattle James Harden, right? And when you have a calming presence at the point guard position, when Toronto, who amped up the physicality last night, who started to trap higher and try to get the ball out of Donovan and James's hands, do you know who didn't panic at all? James Harden. And when you see a guy like James not panic in those situations, it makes everyone else calm down.
Yeah.
And if they're going to double James, you know what he's going to do? I'm going to slip a little pass to Donovan Mitchell, let Donovan Mitchell attack 3-on-4 or 4-on-3. If they do the same to Don, you know what Don's doing? And let me swing it over. The ball's going to be in James Harden's hand. Now he's attacking 4-on-3. We saw the pick and roll last night between Evan Mobley and James Harden work. Early on, they went to Jared Allen, who I think he scored the first 4 points of the game. Then he only had 10, but I thought he played a pretty good game overall. They all feel so much more comfortable knowing their roles because James is the one navigating through the treacherous waters. When you have, and it's still Donovan's team. When I say captain, I don't mean it like James hasn't surpassed Donovan in the hierarchy of this team. But when you have a boat captain like James Harden, who is just navigating treacherous waters so confidently and so calmly, how can you be panicked if you're not? If you're just the deckhand, right? Or whatever what else do you call? I'm not a boat guy. I need Jay Crawford. Jay, what do you call your second and third?
First mate?
First mate.
Yeah.
You don't get panicky because the captain's not. And if the captain's panicky, then that leads down and trickles down to the rest of the team. And because James Harden's been there, because he's seen everything, because he knows how to beat every defense, because his basketball intelligence, we talk about the scoring and the passing, his basketball IQ is his best trait. Because he's been there, done that, and seen it all, it just has a calming presence on everyone else. And I think that's part of the reason why last night, despite the fact Toronto, in a few different instances, started to mount comebacks. They cut the lead from 13 to 6. They cut it down to 7 at one point. They never blinked.
Hey,
the Cavs never blinked.
Game 3, Cavs going to have to withstand a punch. Game 3 is going to be much more chippy. Toronto got one of the best playoff atmospheres. They're going to come out with a punch.
It's going to be
loud. They got to weather the storm the first 12 minutes or so of that game. Toronto's going to come out with their hair on fire. But if the Cavs can get this game to be a 4 or 5 point game either way at halftime, I think that initial energy will die down a little bit. And then, to me, this is the biggest pivotal game. If the Cavs can get game 3, it's a wrap. You can get them off the sticks when we can go home and drink Kool-Aid and look around. But other than that, but Toronto will try to make this game muddy. Scotty Barnes is going to be aggressive. Brandon Ingram, they're going to tell him, he had 7. He scored into the fourth quarter. He had like 7 points.
7 points last night.
7.
That's it.
That's crazy. So he's going to be more aggressive. And then quickly, I don't know what the report is on him.
Their coach said he's getting better and closer, but wasn't ready for game 2. Maybe 2 days off will get him ready for game 3. Who knows if he'll play or not, but it hasn't mattered so far. Quickly or not, wasn't making a difference. In the first hour of the show, we did give Evan Mobley a ton of kudos and credit. I know he didn't make it into this part of the segment, but Evan Mobley was also a really big part of the Cavs' win last night. And even G. Bush, who has called Evan a glorified role player at times, has started to come around and believe in the Cavs' budding young forward.
He's the biggest role player and the biggest X factor moving in the game today. If Evan Mobley plays well, the Cavs have a chance to beat anybody. If he does not play well, they have a chance to look very nasty. It could get really ugly. But Evan Mobley, when you're getting 25 from him, you ain't got to have Dean Wayne scoring you 14 points. Max Strus didn't really do anything like he did 20-some points the first game. Didn't really do anything. He did hit a big 3 a little bit as well. But I love the fact that it just seems like Kenny has told Evan and Jared Allen, hey, listen, dive to the basket and get dunks. That's all we care about. If you could dive to the basket on pick and roll and get dunks and beat terrors. I like this energy on the offensive glass. I like them keeping balls alive, tipping the ball. I like the energy by the bigs. If you can consistently give me that type of energy, the Cavs are difficult to beat because you're not asking them to do nothing but give us energy and make sure that we punish them in the paint.
Final thoughts, Jason, on Evan Mobley in the Game 2 win for the Cavs?
I thought he was terrific. I thought that's the best way for him to play going forward. And if he continues to be able to exploit them in the paint, I don't see how they lose this series. I mean, obviously they're up 2-0 going on the road. We picked them in 5 at the start, and I think that's probably going to hold.